Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm Rachel Justice, and along with my partner in crime, Jillian Levinson, we co-lead Woman to Woman. And we are thrilled that you are here for session 3 of managing stress through hypnosis, specifically stress related to the pandemic and stress related to being cancer patients and survivors. We have the wonderful Emma Ehrenzeller back with us, and we are all, I see a lot of repeat customers, a couple of new faces, but so excited to all be here together. And as I have said, I personally think this is just wonderful, and I love attending and kind of turning things over to Emma and being able to be kind of a guest at this. I think it is fascinating and super helpful. So Emma, you have the floor.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone.
Hi, Emma.
Happy Thursday. I think we're on Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, losing track. Hope everyone's had a great week, and I'm excited to see some familiar faces and some new ones this week. So, as you know, over the past 2 weeks now, in our third week, we've been talking all about hypnosis and stress management. Today, we're going to be going a little bit deeper on the sciencey side. So it's going to be a little bit of an anatomy lesson, but we're going to go slow, make it fun, and take pauses and breaks if you have any questions. But today we're going to be talking about your nervous system in stress, going a little bit deeper on that fight or flight response and how you can better manage it through your vagus nerve, which we're going to talk all about today. Quick breakdown of our schedule. We're going to talk about the basics of your nervous system, how you can calm it using a few different techniques that they found. And of course, we're going to end with hypnosis as a tool for stress management, specifically through your vagus nerve. Okay, so let's break down. Oh, I always forget I have to introduce myself. Hello, if you're new this week, I'm going to do this real quick. I do a fuller introduction in our other videos, but I'm Emma. I'm a certified life coach and hypnotist, and I'm really, really passionate and just in love with the work I do of helping people better understand their brains, the brain-body connection, and how they can use it to create lives that are more happy and peaceful, basically, which is what we've been doing for the past few weeks and what we're going to keep doing today. Keep it short this week, and we're just going to jump right in. Alrighty, so let's break down the nervous system in its basics, okay? So the nervous system is really what controls most of your body, both your voluntary movements and the things happening in your body day to day without your conscious control and awareness, okay? So the nervous system breaks down into this fun, kind of like multi-part schema that we're just going to quickly run through so that we can get to the meat of what's important for how it applies to you today. So for starters, the brain or the nervous system first breaks into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is just your brain and your spinal cord. That's just the nervous tissue that runs down your spinal column. And then your peripheral nervous system. That's all the different nerves that run off of your spinal cord, and out your brain, okay? What we're talking about today specifically is the different parts of the peripheral nervous system. So this further splits into 2 little subsystems. We have the autonomic system and the somatic system. Now, these are pretty well named, but if I was a doctor physician in 1850 or whenever they named them, I would have named automatic because it basically controls all of our automatic functions, right? Our heart rate, our respiratory rate, hormonal secretions, different things like that are all going to be housed and controlled by the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system is a little bit more things in your voluntary control. So let's say like every time you get home from, the grocery store, anywhere, you lean down and you pet your cat. They meow at you, you reach your arm down, you pet their little head, all of that. You're sending a signal to your arm to lean down, pet your cat, all of that, right? If you're my cat, you continue to meow until you get like a full-on 10-minute grooming. He's quite the diva. Anywho, all of the voluntary arm, leg, etc. kind of movements, that's somatic. Automatic stuff is in the autonomic nervous system. Now, here's where we get into some familiar terms. In the autonomic nervous system, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, again, I would have named these things differently so that they don't sound like the exact same word. Even in my anatomy classes in college, this always confused me, but sympathetic is in charge of fight or flight, right? We talked about that a lot last week when we were talking about the lion metaphor, right? In the stress response cycle. I want to bring that to mind briefly now, just so it's top of mind because it's related to what we talk about today. So, the stress response cycle is essentially like a 3-point process of noticing some kind of trigger for stress, right? Whether it's being chased by a lion or just getting nervous that you're going to be late for a meeting, right? From there, your fight or flight response is activated. This is basically just the stress response in our body. And that is what the sympathetic nervous system controls. Okay. And once we calm down, right? If you remember last week, once we safely, run away and make it to our cave away from the lion, once we, make it to the meeting on time and do some other things to calm our body, then we're able to come back into a sense of relaxation out of the fight or flight into the parasympathetic nervous system, right? So if you remember from last week, when we're in fight or flight mode, all of the energy, the extra like hormones, everything's going out into our muscles, into our arms, into our legs, things like that, so that we can run faster, so that we can fight, we can somehow address whatever the stressor is. Now, of course, that's not really necessary in our day-to-day world, right? Where it's normally not necessary or appropriate to fight or flight for being late for a meeting or if we have a stressful conversation we need to have, right? So a lot of our work is about how can we then activate this parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response, so that we can send the muscle or send the energy out of our muscles and back into our body, into the day-to-day digestive processes, hormonal balances, different things that happen automatically when we're not in fight or flight mode that can promote health, wellness, all the different things. So that is the basics compared to like what we were talking about last week with the stress response cycle. Point 2 is the sympathetic nervous system fight or flight, getting back into that sense of calm and relaxation, telling your body that you're safe. That's going to be the parasympathetic nervous system, right? People call it rest and digest. So there is one last level of complexity here. And before I get into it, I'm just curious, does anyone have any questions at this point or anything you'd like me to clarify? Cool. All right. So there's one last level here of another little subsystem that we're going to talk about before we get into how this directly applies to you. So in the mid-90s, a researcher named Stephen Porges, I might be saying his last name wrong. He's from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. It's right down the road from me. My little brother actually goes to school there. Go Heels. He came up with what is called polyvagal theory from his research. So basically what this means is the parasympathetic nervous system, right, our rest and digest system, actually has 2 more divisions. One of these divisions is responsible for our freeze response. Now, we would have touched on this a little bit last week, but I'm just going to graze over it. It's not necessarily at the forefront of stress management, but just so you're aware, the freeze response is when our body, noticing some kind of stressor decides, fight or flight isn't really a real option here. I'm just going to kind of freeze and play dead in a sense, right? It's something that's more seen with traumatic events, PTSD, things like that. So it's not as relevant for us today, but it's a big part of the theory, so I wanted to throw it in there as a little bonus point. What's a little bit more key for us today is the social engagement system, okay? So with this, basically what Dr. Porges found is that obviously we know we're very interdependent beings, right? A lot of our society and culture pushes us towards interdependence, but I'm sure as you've experienced being part of this support group and in your own support in your life, all of this stuff, being in community with others, being in close relationship with others is something that's extremely soothing and a core piece of life and of happiness. So a lot of his research was finding how our brain and our body pick up on different social cues that can help us feel safe or alert the fight or flight response. And so we're going to go a little bit deeper into why this is important with managing stress. But just as a bit of like a spoiler and a sneak peek, if you remember last week, we talked a lot about how affection is really important in terms of managing our stress, coming back into a physical sense of safety and of calm. This is some of the science behind it. He's seen that basically in mammals, because we've developed as more community-based organisms, we have a newer, highly evolved system for taking in social cues and using those different cues, people's tone of voice, people's facial expressions, things like that to denote friend, enemy, safety, danger. And we can use this to help us find a sense of calm and relaxation, regardless of what's happening in our external environment. Okay. The core kind of component of his theory is all surrounded with the vagus nerve. So if you see these two names, they're very jargony, so I don't even really like to say them, but like the ventral vagal complex and the dorsal vagal complex, right? That's where this part of the nervous system splits off. That all has to do with the vagus nerve, okay? Now, vagus in Latin means wandering, okay? I took Latin for 3 years in high school, and unfortunately that did not equip me for translating. I just learned that online doing research for this presentation, but it means wandering. So if you look at the diagram here, we see that this orange kind of mustardy colored line, that's the vagus nerve, and it goes all around. It wanders to the tongue, to the lungs, to the heart. The vagus nerve really touches into most of the internal organs in the body. So this is good for us because when we can activate the vagus nerve, we can activate our rest and digest systems. What that basically means is when we think about that stress response cycle, when we go into the fight or flight response, but then we want to go back into a sense of calm, safety, activate, rest and digest, parasympathetic, we can do it more easily if we know how to activate the vagus nerve. And there are a lot of different doorways and entryways, avenues to be able to do so. Okay. So being able to activate the vagus nerve, working with the vagus nerve regularly, has shown in research to do a lot of different awesome things. It's been shown to lower heart rate, decrease blood pressure, improve digestion, right? A lot of different things. And if we think back again to the stress response cycle, what's happening in fight or flight is we're increasing the heart rate, we're increasing blood pressure. Any energy for digestion and all of that is being sent out to your muscles, right? So when we can instead turn our bodies back into the sense of safety, right? Back into a sense of calm, we can come into a lower heart rate, lower blood pressure, better digestion because energy can be sent into your day-to-day health and wellness, upkeep kind of tasks rather than this really frenetic, I gotta do something, I gotta fight, I gotta flee, etc. energy. So understandably, with that often comes increased emotional stability as well, right? When you're able to be in more of a physical sense of safety, obviously your mood is going to be higher, but also more stable. You're not as reactive, you can be more responsive, things like that. The last piece I also wanted to mention here is they've also seen in research that working with your vagus nerve has led to a reduction in migraines. I'm not sure if anyone here experiences them, but I did want to include that just to pique your attention in case that is something that you experience and are just struggling with, because migraines are absolutely no fun whatsoever. So the vagus nerve, it does a lot, means wandering nerve, goes all throughout our body. A lot of people in more of like the spiritual, sciencey kind of world, like if you know of Deepak Chopra, I used to do one of his meditations and he would always talk about how it's the healing nerve in the body, right? Because when we can activate it, we can kind of come into a sense of calm and a lot of healing. So Here are some ways that you can activate your vagus nerve and again, complete the stress response cycle, getting into rest and digest, feeling a physical sense of calm rather than ongoing chronic stress. So the first piece here is socializing and facial movement. Okay. So if we think back to Dr. Porges's polyvagal theory, there's that whole part with the social engagement system. It's all about how we are wired in to take all the different social cues from our environment and kind of decide, are we safe or are we in danger? So the more that we can do to show ourselves that we are safe, the more that we're able to activate our vagus nerve for a sense of calm. So how can you do this? First piece, connecting with loved ones, with friendly faces, with trusted people in your life. And what's really important here, beyond just the intentional affection, things like that, last week we talked about the 20-second hug or the 6-second kiss if you have a partner. But outside of those, what's really important here is using direct eye contact, using touch and affection when appropriate. These are different social cues that we can poke or pick up on to show us, hey, we are in a safe place. I'm with people who I know, who I trust, even if they're maybe not, my best friends in the world, who I can learn to relax with. The next piece, we also talked about this last week, but this is another avenue of understanding why it's helpful. Full belly laughter, having a good big laugh. All right. That whether it's coming from a TV show, a joke, your friends, etc. Of course, when you're laughing, there's first the part that we discussed last week. That is a cue to yourself that you're safe. If you're running from a lion, you're probably not going to be laughing out loud, right? So it's first an auditory cue of, okay, I'm safe. But there's another level to it, including the vagus nerve, that we also need to be mindful of. So if we go back to our diagram here, when you're laughing, your stomach is expanding and contracting a lot, right? When you expand and contract your stomach, you are activating your diaphragm. Now, if you're not familiar with your diaphragm, it is the space between, it's the muscular space between your lungs and your heart cavity and your abdomen here. So it's this black line just separating the both of them. And what do we see moving through this line? It is the vagus nerve. So when we laugh, when we are really expanding and contracting this space, we are also activating the vagus nerve, right? So I like to re-emphasize some of these things that we talked about from last week, just because learning is a repetition process. And I just love how with some of these things, especially the community-based, like interdependence, social aspects, like there are so many different reasons for why they're important, especially when we think about managing stress, but also just cultivating more happiness and wellness, right? But if we go back to Porges's polyvagal theory, another piece here is the auditory cues. Okay, so he talks about in this theory how we have these little micro muscles in our ears. Okay, little tiny muscles in our ears that have developed to take in human voice, tone, etc. So if you find yourself stressed in a social situation, trying to focus more on people's voices, whoever you're talking to around you, can be really helpful. Some people, noise can be really overstimulating, especially in like a party or at a loud mall, anything like that. So in those kinds of environments, if it's hard for you to focus on a voice, they recommend going to a quieter space in the room, going to a quieter space in the mall, anything like that, where it's easier for you to focus on that voice can be really helpful to, again, come back into this sense of calm, of peacefulness, and of like physiological safety. Okay. So two other things here that are more things you can do rather than like tuning into the environment around you are essentially just being more expressive, right? So they talk about speaking more expressively and even like using more of your facial muscles. So first piece to note here is, again, when we look at the vagus nerve, it flows from our tongue and our vocal cords, right? So it's connected here. When we use these more actively, we are also starting to activate the vagus nerve a little bit more. And, it's so corny. It is like one of those just random hyper positive parts of, I don't know, like self-help, but I mean, even just smiling more can boost your overall mood, not because, I have to force myself to be happy no matter what's going on, but it is also one of those social cues that we use when we are in safe states. So it's something you can kind of do to hack your brain and say, okay, I am in a safe space. I can be calm because I'm expressive, because I'm more present in here with these people around me. So this whole slide is why I include all of the stuff on polyvagal theory. It's a little bit more like intricate, even though it's been around for like 20, 25 years, it is a bit trendier in the psychology, self-help kind of space. So I just want to pause here. Does anyone have any questions on how this is like applicable to them? Anything at all? Cool. All righty. Let's get into the next piece about breath. All right. Now, if you've ever been to any kind of like stress workshop in the past, done any kind of reading on stress, people are almost always going to talk about breathing. So I'm just looking at Joan's question. Do people know what hack your brain means? So what I mean by that, Joan, is essentially kind of telling your brain that you are safe, even if maybe you are kind of stressed out, right? Kind of cutting a little bit of like cutting corners on the stress response cycle so that you can get into a sense of calm and safety a bit faster than just kind of like riding out the stress. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Danae. I'm glad that this is very detailed and helpful for you. But yeah, Joan, let me know if that was helpful for you. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or drop them in the chat. Thank you. So diaphragmatic breathing is a very, very commonly used technique to decrease stress. First thing I'm going to note, we just talked about the diaphragm with laughter. When we use a specific kind of breathing, we are again activating the diaphragm, which will activate the vagus nerve, okay? And what's really key here is basically with whatever kind of style of breathing you do, you want to exhale longer than you inhale, right? If you think about any time you've kind of been having an emotional moment, you've been crying, a lot of times that will come with like really sharp inhales. So we want to do the reverse of that. Oxygenate the system, activate the vagus nerve through the diaphragm, through slower, deeper breaths, okay? And you'll notice if you've peered at the screen while I've been talking, this is how I start all of my hypnosis sessions. So it's breathing in for a count of 4, holding it for 2, and exhaling for 6. Okay, we're going to do that today in our hypnosis session. But when people talk about bringing this into your day-to-day life, right? Like if you're not really trying to sit down for a 15, 20-minute session, instead what you can do is do anywhere from 5 to 10 rounds of this patterned breathing, okay? That's what they generally recommend to, again, work on completing the stress cycle, activating your vagus nerve, and activating that rest and digest, that physical sense of safety, okay? So what's helpful for some people, if, for you focusing on your breath gets very kind of boring, if your mind kind of goes different places, things like that, you can imagine your stomach inflating and deflating like a big red balloon or something like that, right? Having imagery to go along with it can be really helpful as well. So as you're exhaling, you're really trying to push all of the air out and kind of reset your system. So diaphragmatic breathing is something really easy. You can start or end your day with. You can throw into the middle of the day if it's getting stressful. Just doing a few rounds, activating that vagus nerve and going into a sense of calm. Now, there are bonus points here, extra things you can do, which include using your facial muscles as you breathe. Now, if you've ever taken a yoga class, a lot of times they'll start with different breathing techniques. They call it, like pranayama. It's generally speaking what they'll call it. And in this, basically, it's using more of your facial muscles and even sometimes your tongue and vocal cords to breathe in a more deliberate manner. So a really common one is called lion's breath. When you do this, you exhale very forcefully and you stick your tongue out kind of like this. You go like, now, don't worry, I'm not going to make you guys do that today. But if you notice, as you're doing that, you are sticking your tongue out and you're also using your vocal cord. You're like making a noise as you breathe out. Okay. So this is important because we're not only activating the vagus nerve at the diaphragm in the lungs, but also the tongue and the vocal cord. So I just like to bring that up because I really love those overlaps between, different ancient cultures and like modern day science and what we're finding and how they're becoming less and less of a Venn diagram and more of a circle. I just always think that's really cool. So if that's ever something you want to try in your own time, that's definitely something you can look into as well. So diaphragmatic breathing, we're going to do that in our hypnosis session today. And then the last one, is anyone surprised? We are ending with hypnosis and meditation. Now, if this is your first week, then I just want to start by saying, as a certified hypnotist, I personally like to define hypnosis as a deep guided meditation with some kind of specific outcome attached, right? For our purposes, we are working on stress relief, but it can be used for a lot of different things. Meditative states in research have been shown to increase overall positive feelings, reduce the fight or flight activity of the sympathetic nervous system, right? Complete that stress cycle, bring us into the rest and digest, that calm. Another interesting one, decrease inflammation in the body, right? So whether we're thinking about chronic illness or just day-to-day wellness, being able to decrease our inflammation is really, really important for our physical health. So regularly accessing some form of meditation has been shown to be very helpful for all of these different things. Hypnosis specifically in research has been shown to increase vagal tone. Okay, vagal tone, again, another kind of jargony word I'm throwing out there. I wanted to put it at the end, not with all the other ones. So go one by one. But vagal tone basically just means how active your vagus nerve is, right? It's something you can train over time, like a muscle in its own way. So working with hypnosis has been shown to help people more quickly and easily activate their vagus nerve so that they can come into a sense of that physical safety, improve their digestion, lower their heart rate, all of those different things that we have talked about. Okay. So a lot of info today. I'm curious what kind of questions you guys have, if any, if this brought anything up. Please don't be afraid to ask. Alrighty. Well,
Emma,
yeah.
this is not a question. This is just an observation. When you were speaking about the diaphragm, can't speak today.
I can't speak diaphragm either. Don't worry. It's like, but
yeah. I know that years ago I grew up in a singing family, right? We sang a gospel. We're a gospel family. And as I was training as a child to sing and make your voice strong and heard, they always taught us sing from the diaphragm.
Right.
And when we breathe, when you sing from the diaphragm, it feels different. I mean, look like you have more voice than you thought you had. And the tones even come out stronger. And that's why great singers, that's where they sing from, the diaphragm, and you can feel it. So that makes a big difference.
Beautiful. Now I'm learning.
It's a powerful feeling, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. Well, thank you for sharing today. That's so interesting. And diaphragm like can really really be able to.
I notice even when I'm speaking, I teach Bible study. When I'm speaking or teaching, right? I always think diaphragm, even if I'm not singing. I always think. And when I do that, my projection is much stronger.
Gotcha.
Even without, I don't need a microphone.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
That's something I'll have to try. Next time I do, anytime I've had to do like public speaking in person, people have always been like, can't hear you. So I'm gonna have to use that for next time. Like, I'm trying as best I can.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you today. That's so interesting. All right. See, we're learning something new every day. I love it. Alrighty, y'all. So we are going to go ahead and get into the hypnosis portion now. If this is your first week, this is just a disclaimer I like to give all of my clients. It is essentially saying hypnosis is not a substitute for any form of medical or mental health treatment. It is a supplement where we use relaxation, visual imagery, creative visualization, and stress reduction processes for the purpose of vocational or avocational self-improvement. For today, that basically means to boost your ability to manage your stress. However, it's not any form of treatment or meant to be any substitute for anything you're currently doing, regardless of what we have talked about thus far or what we will in the future. So, like we do every week, if I could just get everyone to unmute themselves and just say yes as a verbal confirmation, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Okay. So we are going to get started in just a minute. Again, what I always say before we begin, a few things to be mindful of. First, as I'm talking, also, I see everyone already doing it. Go ahead and get into a comfy position. I recommend sitting with your back supported. If you can get your head and neck supported, that's even better. If not, don't worry about it. First, you are in control the entire time, right? Over the past few weeks, we've had some awesome examples of people kind of making each session their own. Like last week, I believe it was Mimi in the group who said, there was an imagery of a rabbit running away. And she said that she instead saw a dolphin leaping away. So just know you are in control the whole time. You are allowed to take yourself wherever you want to go in this session. And I really encourage you to. Second piece, if you need to shift at all, if you need to scratch your nose, do anything like that, please do get as comfortable as you need. Moving during the session isn't going to take you out of hypnosis. And last thing, as we go through, you might notice a few different sensations in your body. You might notice a sense of heaviness, like you're melting into relaxation. Some clients notice a lightness, almost like they are floating. All of these are totally normal. You might also notice your eyelids fluttering a little extra, or your like an extra, like you might have to swallow a little bit more, which is a very random one that happens, but it happens nonetheless. So I know we have some new people here this week. Does anyone have any questions about hypnosis before we get started? All righty. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started then. So to begin, everyone go ahead and get comfortable. Take your time. Alrighty, and we'll just start by go ahead and close your eyes. We're just going to start with some slow diaphragmatic breathing. So to begin, I'd like you to just take a deep breath in for 4. Hold it for 2. And exhale for 6. And again, inhale for 4. Hold for 2. And exhale for 6. One more time. Inhale for 4. Hold for 2. And exhale for 6. Good, good. And you can continue breathing in this pattern if you'd like, or if you'd prefer, you can allow your breathing to just move into a slow, natural rhythm as you just listen to the sound of my voice. So with your eyes closed, I'd like you to just tune into the sound of your heartbeat. Maybe you hear its soft reverberation in your chest. Maybe you feel the light vibration of its pulse through your body. Just take a moment to notice your heartbeat now, putting a hand over your heart if it's helpful for you. Good, good. And just continue focusing on your heartbeat. And as you do, I want you to give your heart space a color. As you connect with this area, what color does it remind you of? A radiant gold, a vibrant green, maybe a royal purple. Trust whatever color comes to mind. And I just want you to imagine this color radiating out from your heart space. With each beat of your heart, you feel this calm, colorful heart space energy expanding out from your chest. You feel this relaxing energy move through your arms, through your legs, out through the top of your head, all through your body. As I count down from 10 to 1, you just find yourself becoming more and more calm, more attuned to this calming, peaceful energy all throughout your body, through every part of you. So 10, just noticing the vibrant color of your heart space. 9, seeing as that energy blooms outwards. 8, feeling more and more relaxed, more and more at peace. 7, feeling yourself relax deeper and deeper as this color from your heart spreads. 6, seeing the color from your heart space just move all throughout your body. 5, feeling more and more calm, more and more relaxed. 4, going deeper and deeper now, just feeling calm, at peace, rest. 3, the deeper you go, the better you feel. 2, better you feel, the deeper you go. And 1, feeling filled with this calm heart space energy. So good and so relaxed. Good, good. I'd like you to now visualize yourself in a calming, serene space. Maybe you find yourself out in nature, favorite hike you've been on in the past, at the beach. Maybe you're just in a warm, comfortable room. Trust where your mind brings you and allow yourself to connect with this space now. What colors do you see around you? As you breathe in, what freshness is in the air? What sounds linger in the distance? As you connect into this place, you find your sense of peacefulness growing more and more from inside you. And now, as you're in this calming, serene space, I'd like you to visualize a bright, warm light coming down from the sky. This light is almost like an orb, like a radiating small sun of energy. It feels calm, safe, and relaxing. Notice what color this light is for you. Is it a bright white, a soft pink, a deep blue? This light comes down and touches the crown of your head. As it does, the glowing energy brings a sense of calm and relaxation into your face and facial muscles. You feel your face relax, your eyes relax, and your cheeks and your jaw just fully relax. The light moves down and just begins to soothe your neck and your chest and your arms. You feel your upper body simply let go of any tension, and you visualize yourself filled with this radiant, bright light. The sense of calm spreads, and your muscles just go deeper and deeper into relaxation. The light now moves into your abdomen and down your legs. You feel your stomach and diaphragm release. Maybe you even feel light as this radiant energy moves through your abdomen. You feel your thighs, knees, calves, and feet relax as well as the radiant light fills your entire body. Maybe as you're filled with this bright light, you sense a connection to something larger than yourself, to your true soul essence. Maybe you simply feel relaxed and at peace, in tune with the calm of your environment. As you are filled with this radiant, bright light, I want you to bring to mind people from your life who have filled you with a similar sense of peace and connection. You might remember friends or family members from the past or present, mentors, or even playmates from childhood. As you're here in this calming place, filled with this radiance, I want you to imagine a circle of support from these people surrounding you. You might see a few people or many standing around you and embracing you. Just notice who is here with you now, who brings this sense of support and connection into your life. Look into their faces, into their eyes. Feel the sense of connection and love flowing from you and from them. As you're here in this circle, you see how everyone also has their own bright, radiant energy. Just as you have been filled with your own relaxing, radiant, bright light, you see that everyone else is radiating out a sense of loving peacefulness. Maybe you see everyone's radiance begin to grow too. The circle of support begins to merge into a field of loving, calm energy. You feel so connected to these people. Whether they're from your past or in your present, doesn't matter. You are connected into their support now and always, and you are constantly energized by the love and trust you share. As you're here in this space, take any time you need to connect with these figures from your life. Talk with them, embrace them, do whatever feels right to envelop you in this sense of loving calm. Take time to do this now. Good, good. And as you tune back into the sound of my voice, you notice how calm and peaceful you have become. You feel a deep sense of support and connection in your life. And this feeling will remain with you even after you leave hypnosis today. You feel a sense of calm deepen in your day-to-day life, and you become a more peaceful person by the day, by the hour, and by the minute. You are guided by your radiant energy. And anytime a stressful situation arises, you are reminded of this radiant, bright light and circle of support. Immediately, you feel a deep sense of love, peace, and joy. And these suggestions will grow deeper and deeper in your subconscious each and every day. So take a final moment to say, embrace, do anything here in the circle of support you would like to do now. Good. And in the future, you can always return to this space, to this hypnotic place, by just taking a few deep breaths, imagining your radiant, bright light, and picturing the faces and the love, the support group you have here in your heart, the circle of support you've seen here today. So, in a few moments, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. At the count of 5, you'll emerge feeling fully refreshed and awake, ready for whatever the day has in store. So 1, just beginning to sway slightly side to side. 2, maybe wiggling your fingers and toes. 3, 4, just fluttering your eyes. And 5, eyes wide open, feeling refreshed, alert, and at peace. Alrighty. Whenever you guys are ready, let me know how that was. Take your time though. Rush. Alrighty, I'm just pulling up the screen. Alrighty. Anyone's welcome to share about their experience, but you definitely do not have to if you don't want to.
I felt really relaxed.
Felt really relaxed?
Yeah, I felt good because this morning I woke up, my head was like so big.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah. I was scared to do it.
Yeah, and like that's what we talked about a lot in the first session. Just, I mean, hypnosis comes with a lot of weird stuff we've seen in TV and
Yes.
movies. So I don't blame you. You know, I was nervous the first time I went into hypnosis, but I'm glad you came today and got to experience it.
Thanks. Yes, I wanted to. Yes, thanks a lot.
You're so welcome. Awesome. Well, just to sum up.
I was just going to say, I thought this felt different than the other two. The other were a bit more directive in a way, and this was a little bit more free form. It just felt kind of like a different sort of experience. I thought, I don't want to say vaguer, but the others were much more guided, and this felt a little bit more self-directed, and it was very, very relaxing, and the time went so quickly.
Interesting. So you brought up a few things there. So I wanted to give a little bit more freedom in this session since we have been doing this for a few weeks now. And today we talked a lot about, you know, relationships, support, social engagement. And I wanted that to be reflected in our session and have this for you in your toolbox to connect into that sense of community, connection, support in the hypnotic space. And obviously that's something that's a little bit different for everyone, right? So I wanted the session to reflect that. So it could be a little more open-ended. And like we always talk about, you're in control and you can kind of build out some of these things and trust what comes up. But yeah. And your other point about time, I know when we did the session last year, we talked about this, but I don't think I've talked about this yet in this round. But a classic sign of being in hypnosis is time distortion. So a lot of times when I work with private clients, we'll have a 30 or 40-minute hypnosis session and we'll get out of it. And I'll be like, okay, how long did you think that was? And they'll be like, oh, that was like 10, 15 minutes, right? I'm like, no, that was a solid like 35, 40. So it's just one of those signs that we see of hypnosis. But thank you for sharing, Rachel. I appreciate that. So yeah, Danae in the chat says that she was in the botanical gardens feeling tranquil and warm. I love that. Love that beautiful kind of imagery to build out for yourself.
I need to just jump in on that imagery. Otherwise, my committee would not be happy with me. But for those of you that are interested in attending our reunion, which is coming up on April 9th, the theme is all about herbs. And we actually have an urban gardening center who will come and talk all about the emotional and physical and nutritional benefits of planting and gardening. And so it's kind of tapped into that, Danae. If that's your happy place, you will really enjoy it. So I don't mean
indeed.
To shameless plug, but it's a really great, hopefully people will learn and also figure out places they can go and feel relaxed too.
Mm-hmm.
And we need you to RSVP as soon as possible if you didn't already do it.
Yep, I did already. Yep.
Okay, great. I just wanted to share what I noticed different and what I actually liked about this one a little bit more is that I feel like I have something to take away from it. I was focusing on a color. So I feel that when I'm getting stressed, that probably I'm going to see one of my children later on. I think I'm going to get stressed. Maybe if I can put that color, maybe I'll feel less stressed. It'll sort of remind me of this moment.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, that's why at the end, we say things, suggestions like, if in the future you're feeling a stressful situation is arising, think back to this, take a breath, remember this bright light, this color, your circle of support, right? These are different tools we like to bring in there to have as constant things you can lean on when stress comes up. Because, stress is a part of life, right? It's just how we manage it. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Robin. I'm so glad that resonated.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I have something to say.
Sure. Yes, Nancy.
While I was in there, I actually, because you said, try to think of people who are here, people from the past and stuff like that. So I'm always thinking about my mom who passed like a year and a half ago now.
Sorry.
And I actually felt like I was there with her and hugging her.
Oh.
So that was a very good feeling for me.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
As she said that, I was thinking of my sister-in-law. She died 15 years ago, and I was like in the beach hugging her.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet. Yeah. And support isn't just a present day thing, right? It's what we've accumulated over time. And I'm really glad that this was a space where you could connect back with those people, what they meant to you and who they were in your life. Thank you guys for sharing that. That makes me so happy to hear.
I just want to say something not quite as deep, but in your intro, when you were talking all about the vagus nerve, I see a functional neurologist, which is basically a chiropractor who has additional training in this whole functional neurology technique. And I do it because of digestive issues. And they do different exercises, a lot of eye exercises to refocus my brain, to refocus my digestive tract. So I just wanted to mention that in line with, with what we did today on also these techniques helping to calm
your digestion.
Yeah.
Other parts as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Mimi. Yeah. It's all connected. Everything's connected in together. The eyes, it's total side note, but they've also found eyes like very connected into like consciousness in a lot of hypnosis studies. So that doesn't surprise me that, working with that functional neurologist, it's connected into kind of retraining that vagus nerve and calming the digestive system and things like that. So thank you for sharing. It's so interesting.
Also, I see Hildred has a hand raised.
Yeah.
Yes. You mentioned the vagus nerve, which is a term I have never heard before.
Mm-hmm.
But to be really able to understand that the vagus nerve is it acts like a trigger for the brain. And
so continue. Yeah.
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 I'm asking, does it work as a trigger for the brain because it sends signals depending on the emotions that we are feeling at any period of time?
Yeah, so the vagus nerve can be a signal for our parasympathetic nervous system. So what that means is the vagus nerve signals that we are safe and okay to relax, right? Because stress is a mental experience, but it's really something physical happening in our body. So working with the vagus nerve, whether that is through diaphragmatic breathing, through the different social cues we talked about, through a short meditation session, through hypnosis, right? Doing all these things to work with our vagus nerve are ways we can trigger our brain to feel safe and okay. So that's kind of like a line of communication. When you can activate the vagus nerve, you can let your brain know and your body know it is safe and okay to relax. Does that help explain it?
Yes, and it really helps me to really appreciate the fact that we are wonderfully made, because
we are.
I know we could just tap into the resources that we have, but I know that a lot of this would call for like self-control and meditation, and like you mentioned, the exercise that we had just now. So thank you for bringing this to us today. I'm sure all of us have benefited greatly from this exercise. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you for being here and for your kind words. I mean, it means the world to me. I love doing these sessions and hearing about all your experiences. So yeah, thank you so much, Hildred.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, guys, we've had a beautiful hour or so together today. To sum up, we've talked about the nervous system, how you can work with your vagus nerve, and you are leaving with a hypnosis experience to increase your capacity to manage stress, calm your nervous system, and tap back into these different sources of support. So next Thursday is going to be our last session of our March Hypnosis Stress Management series. It's going to be same time, same place. And next week, we're really just going to be reviewing the main topics we've talked about over the past 4 weeks. We've been over a lot of information. So I really want this to be more of a culmination for you to be able to say, okay, here are the main things I can start doing in my day-to-day life, so I can actually apply them and integrate them to help manage my stress. So that's going to be next week. I would love to hear from you or see you again then. If you have any questions in the meantime, my email is on the slide here, as is my website info if you're curious to learn more. So thank you guys so much for being here. It's been such a delight as always. And I hope you guys all have a lovely rest of your day and rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. We appreciate your passion, dedication, everybody. Thank you so much. And hopefully we will see you all next week.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.